On the evening it all began, Lowe's angels bristled with winter rain, the kind that made the neon signs bleed down the walls, pooling color in the gutters. The gallery was on Fairfax, tucked between a Cuban bakery and a store that hawked crystals and tarot cards. In the bruise-colored twilight, the open sign buzzed behind wet streaks. Inside was booze and brittle laughter. I went in alone, my jacket, thrifted and too thin, clung to me. I found my name on the invitation, misspelled, and watched the crowd. Students with lace-up boots, failed screenwriters, a cluster of real journalists who'd never read my pieces. The editor from CityWire stood near the rear, already bored, swirling his wine like nostalgia. The air reeked of red wine, rain-soaked wool, and anticipation, none of it for me. Sarah found me before I found her. My cousin, glamorous Lowe's fella's address, perfectly sculpted nose, worked PR for the mayor's wife. She didn't so much embrace as arrange herself next to me. Her greeting was a kiss on my cheek, perfumed and hollow. "I heard your story got pulled," she murmured not unkindly. "That sucks." "Yeah," I replied, voice as dry as my mouth. "Budget." She smiled with all her teeth. "Maybe try long-form fiction." "I know a guys. I want to do real stories, Sarah." "Right," she cooed, squeezing my elbow. "You and your deep dives." Her friends drifted over. I'd known them since school. They had degrees from Berkeley, trust funds, weddings at vineyards in Sonoma. One offered me a job selling data mining solutions. Another said, "Look at us now, nobody who chose writing got anywhere. Like who even does journalism anymore?" A laugh rippled, my face stayed frozen. I didn't have an answer for them, too hungry, too angry to even touch the plastic cup in my hand. The gallery host announced the featured artist. Lights shifted. I should have been there in the packet, or at least mentioned in the press notes, but my exposé on city corruption had been killed and everyone knew it. My family had gossiped about it for weeks. I wasn't just failing, I was embarrassing them. Sarah's mother, Aunt Eliza, always said I should try local news segments, something safe. Rain picked up outside, pelting the windows like disapproval. I watched their faces reflected against the black glass, saw nothing but polite smiles shot through with something colder. My father had always said, "You dream too big. In this city, it'll eat you alive." As they all drifted away, I stood in the corner and stared at the rain, letting grief curl in my chest. When I finally stepped onto the sidewalk, the wind slapped my face. I walked under a torrent, headlights fanning out on the slick road, each step soaked with humiliation. My phone buzzed, a text from my dad. "Did you talk to anyone important? Don't forget, Uncle Phil said the fire department needs dispatchers." I scrolled up to read old messages, the familiar string of job offers that ended with "just be sensible." I didn't reply. I walked home, shoes squelching, rain running down my neck, city thrumming with the hum of dreams that outlasted streets and steel. That night I sat on my bed, mattress on the floor, windows steamed, the city's pulse below me, and pulled out the slim folder of clippings. Stories that never got picked up, half-read notes on my last big piece, a clutch of phone numbers of sources that had already stopped taking my calls. I wiped my face, not sure if it was sweat, rain, or tears. Somewhere a siren howled far off. I let the ache wash over me, lost pure as rainwater. Everything that mattered, dignity, faith, momentum, felt gone. The weeks after the rejection blurred into sameness. I sat in tiny cafes, freelanced for content farms, rewrote press releases for pennies. The only thing that felt alive was my stewing anger, the conviction that nobody cared what mattered unless it was trending. I'd pass by newsstands selling old copies of the Times, brittle and yellow at the edges, and wonder if the city would remember anything I did. At home, the phone rang daily with more lectures. My aunt cornered me at family dinners. "You know, writing exposes is fine when you're young, but don't you want a real career?" My dad badgered me about city jobs. Even my younger brother, golden boy engineer at SpaceX, said, "Come on, Sienna, when's it enough?" Never, I'd say, but my voice would falter more each time. I fought with editors, chased leads nobody wanted, wrote about potholes and dog parks when I needed food money. Sometimes people would look at me, their reporter cousin, in that pitying, superior way, and I'd shrink a little more. The radio in my car broke. Sometimes I drove along the 405 just to yell at the palm trees, dry and rattling like the bones of old ambitions. I couldn't stop. The city was too dense with stories, so much hidden rot. Someone had to shine a light, but the months bled by. The corner broke in the smallest way, an overheard rumor in a dive bar in Atwater Village. I sat alone after a bad job interview, listlessly scrolling on my phone, when I caught two men talking behind me. Still paying off the councilman, can't get the code changed otherwise. It was nothing at first. I wrote a note, finished my drink, almost forgot, but it nagged at me all the way home, worse than any of the lectures. I started digging. City contracts, concealed amendments, anonymous tips. Someone thought the LA City Council was laundering money through a series of green initiatives, huge government funds meant for public parks and solar projects, skimmed by construction firms and politicians. I traced bank accounts, sat through city meetings, called up old sources who barely remembered me. My rent went overdue. Sarah invited me to her birthday in West Hollywood. I didn't go. Instead, I met with a whistleblower in an alley behind a gas station. He handed me a flash drive, his hands shaking. "They'll come after your job if you print this," he said. "I don't have one to lose," I answered. It took months. Nights wore thin over city maps and spreadsheets. People hung up on me, told me not to bother, sometimes called me crazy. My family stopped asking about my work. They asked after my health, talked over me at dinner parties, whispered about that sad thing Sienna's doing. I kept digging. One morning I sent a pitch, half desperate, half defiant, to 3 national magazines. All rejected me. The fourth, a site known for its politics and grit, called me back. "You got proof?" the editor asked, a woman, blunt and brisk. "Yes," I said, sure this time, "I've got everything." The next weeks were a falling stars blur. My byline ran with photos of secret deals, payout receipts, voice recordings of city councilmen trading favors. There were threats, strange men outside my building, snide emails about watching your step. Police reports were filed. I slept with the light on. The story hit. CityWire ran an apology for killing my first piece. The local news picked it up. The mayor's office panicked. Public forums filled up overnight. 10 city officials were indicted. The head of the Parks Commission resigned on live television. My family called. Sarah was first, her voice tight, as if congratulating me through gritted teeth. My dad left a voicemail, "Proud of you, kid, be careful." Even Aunt Eliza sent a text, one line, "Well done, I suppose." But the city knew me now. I went on radio, a podcast, my inbox flooded, people confessing other secrets, asking for help. For the first time in years, I stopped apologizing for my name. The magazine flew me to New York for an award. I wore my only black dress and talked about journalism under spotlights. The applause thundered and faded quickly. The real win was coming home with my story intact, the one nobody wanted at first. Months later, after the dust settled, my father called about a fundraiser at the same gallery on Fairfax. I should come, he said. Sarah would be there, so would some old friends. "Family's expecting you," he said. "You'll come." That night, LA looked different, rain-washed, clear as a promise. I parked near the bakery, engine ticking, nerves crawling under my skin. The sidewalk was a mosaic of broken glass, rain scattering streetlight shards. Inside, the walls gleamed with new work, slick paint over old scars. Sarah approached, heels clicking, hair perfect. "You made it," she said, voice light. "There's someone I want you to meet." She guided me through the throngs. Faces turned, some familiar, some not. My dad stood by the window, talking with Uncle Phil and a city councilman whose name I'd exposed a year before. The councilman's face twitched when he saw me. "Everyone was saying you wouldn't come," Sarah said. She sounded almost proud. I glanced around, the same crowd that had ignored me now looking. This time it was different. The whispers were not about my failures. My name hung in the air, a rumor turned punchline turned story. Aunt Eliza, gowned in blue velvet, caught my eye. She approached, smile brittle but genuine. "Sienna, dear, you're quite the headline these days. Slept with your phone under my pillow after that piece broke." I managed a nod. For so long my pride was armored, but something in her tone thawed it. There was respect, or maybe envy. The host, the same man, older, hair thinning, tapped a glass. "Thank you all for joining us. We have a very special guest, Sienna Moss, whose reporting changed this city. We're honored to have her." Ripples of applause. This time I didn't shrink. I let it move over me, warm and bright. I caught my dad's eye. For once he was smiling, not the worried, hard-angled look of old, but something softer, accepting. After, people came up. Old friends, curious neighbors, even the editor who'd snubbed me before. "I'll never admit it out loud," he laughed to my father, "but she's the real deal." Out on the gallery's small terrace, the rain had slowed. The lights threw soft golden circles on the pavement. I breathed in air still sweet with storm. Dad found me there, hands in his coat pockets. "You happy?" "I think so," I said. I meant it. He looked at me, tired and proud all at once. I was wrong, about how this city works. I thought playing safe was the only way, but you, he stopped, voice wobbling. You went your own damn way. We stood there in silence. I saw the city stretching below, the rows of lights, the endless brim of stories still waiting to be told. Inside, someone called my name, my family, my community. I walked back in, not just to them, but back to myself, built whole again, every scar another kind of proof. This time they saw me, and it was enough.